Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to another Quran study. God willing, today we'll be reading from Surah 7, verse 134. Let's all seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. When a plague afflicted them, they said, O Moses, implore your Lord, you're close to him. If you relieve this plague, we will believe with you, and will send the children of Israel with you. Yet when we relieved the plague for any length of time, they violated their pledge. The inevitable retribution. Consequently, we avenge their actions and drown them in the sea. That is because they rejected our signs and were totally heedless thereof. We let the oppressed people inherit the land east and west, and we blessed it. The blessed commands of your Lord were thus fulfilled for the children of Israel, to reward them for their steadfastness. And we annihilated the works of Pharaoh and his people and everything they harvested. So this is continuation about Pharaoh's people and how they responded to Moses, and talking about the plagues that were issued as a final warning for Pharaoh and his people, but they refused to take heed. And so, I mean, this is a really obnoxious and weird behavior that we see from some disbelievers. In this case, Pharaoh's people, that they said that if God, they knew. Almost, it's like they knew it was coming from God, because they're saying that, if ask your God to implore your God to remove this, like implore your Lord, to Moses, like not saying our Lord, but saying his Lord, implore him to, like, they don't even want to call him their God, right? And they're saying, relieve this problem for us. But when God did relieve the problem, they still didn't believe with them, so, and as a result, eventually when they failed to take heed, either way, with problems, with the plagues, without the plagues, that means there was no point of return for these people, and these people were destined to be annihilated. And so then we see how God says that consequently the retribution was a result of this disbelief. I mean, these people were annihilated, and then God allowed the oppressed people to inherit the land, inherit everything that these people left behind. And the children of Israel who believed, God rewarded them and set them free, and that's why, the works of Pharaoh and everything that they harvested, all the wealth they had, everything else, I mean, they lost all of it. And this is a reminder for us. Shows God's power. God brought the most powerful army in the world at the time, and annihilated them. Just like that in no time, because they failed to take heed, because they failed to believe. And I mean, that is not just something from Pharaoh's people. This applies to the pharaohs of the world today, and how if there are disbelievers and tyrants who refuse to take heed, and act as tyrants and disbelievers, I mean, they'll have the same fate, eventually, whether it's collective annihilation, like in the case of Pharaoh and his people, or individual annihilation, when people getting diseased and inflicted with pain and misery, and eventually dying as a result. I mean, it's the same thing, It happens either individually or collectively to these people before they're, doomed to hell. God willing, I'll continue reading. After all the miracles, verse 138, we delivered the children of Israel across the sea. When they passed by people who were worshipping statues, they said, O Moses, make a god for us like the gods they have. He says, indeed, you're ignorant people. These people are committing a blasphemy, for what they are doing is disastrous for them. Shall I seek for you other than God to be your God, when He has blessed you more than anyone else in the world? And so again, like it says, after all the miracles, like imagine, being enslaved by the most powerful tyrant in the world, and then God setting you free. All of a sudden, you're a free person. Instead of being thankful to God and never committing idol worship, the first thing that they thought of is doing idol worship again, and asking them to make a god for them, just like the gods they saw other people worshiping idols, and they said, "Oh, Moses, make one for us too, so we can do the same thing." And that really tells you something, right? I mean, it really, to me, it just strikes home, like, how we see idol worshippers. How we see people who believed, people who are submitters today, who accepted that we're going to worship God alone. When they see other people committing idolatrous acts, they want to do that too, right? Knowing the miracles that they have seen, the proofs that they have witnessed, they want to do it again. How backwards is that, right? And how bad it is for these people. Obviously, what they were doing, they might as well just like stab themselves, with their own hands. But it just shows like how unappreciative humans can be, right? And how temporary their beliefs can be. Like they just flip their belief according to the situation. When they were in hard times, when they were being persecuted in times of Pharaoh, they had turned to God. They were really believing, right? And now they're free people. Like Moses said, we'll see how you behave when God will, give you sovereignty after that. I'm paraphrasing, and we'll see how you believe, right? And this is what they do. When they were given freedom and God eased their problems, they wanted to commit idol worship, despite seeing all the proofs and despite having a messenger, sitting in their midst at the time. Reminder to the children of Israel, verse 141. Recall that we delivered you from Pharaoh's people, who inflicted the worst persecution upon you, killing your sons and sparing your daughters. That was an exacting trial from your Lord. Our world cannot stand the physical presence of God. We summoned Moses for 30 nights and completed them by adding 10. Thus the audience with his Lord lasted 40 nights. Moses said to his brother Aaron, "Stay here with my people, maintain righteousness, and do not follow the ways of the corruptors." And the footnote here states, for 7:142, the manner in which these numbers are mentioned is significant. As detailed in Appendix 1, all the numbers mentioned in the Quran add up to 162,146, or 19 times 8,534. So this is what all the numbers add up to, and you can see the peculiar way in which these are mentioned. In these verses, God is reminding the children of Israel, that they should remember God's blessings that God gave to them. This one of those blessings, God gave them so many. One of those blessings was that He delivered them from Pharaoh's people, who persecuted them, who inflicted, as God says, the worst persecution, killing their babies, boys, and allowing their daughters to grow, most likely so they could, take advantage of the daughters and not let them have boys, so they can be weak people that can be oppressed and taken advantage of this way, and no one to stand up for them in any way. or provide any sort of decent living for them. I mean, depriving them even also of having any boys. I mean, from so many different angles. This is the worst persecution. I mean, someone killing your children, whether boys or girls, I guess. I mean, that would be, for the parents, would be the worst type of persecution. Imagine if a leader of a country started doing that to someone. I mean, that would be just because they believed, or for whatever reason, just because they were from a different tribe that were enslaved, different ethnicity that were enslaved. I mean, that was pretty bad, and there was no hope for these people because they were outnumbered, outpowered, and there was no one that would stand up for them. Obviously, because fearing Pharaoh and everything. So, but God allowed this to happen, and still these people, forgot about that when the times were good. So this part here, talking about Moses and God's presence, I'm going to continue here reading 143. It says, when Moses came at our appointed time and his Lord spoke with him, he said, my Lord, let me look at you. He said, you cannot see me. Look at that mountain. If it stays in its place, then you can see me. Then his Lord manifested himself to the mountain, and this caused it to crumble. Moses fell unconscious. When he came to, he said, be you glorified. I have repented to you. I am the most convinced believer. He said, O Moses, I have chosen you out of all the people with my messages and by speaking to you. Therefore, take what I have given you and be appreciative. He wrote for him on the tablets all kinds of enlightenments and details of everything. You shall uphold these teachings strongly and exhort your people to uphold them. These are the best teachings. I will point out for you the fate of the wicked. So this part right here, shows us as a proof that our world is, designed in a way to not be able to withstand God's physical presence. When Moses was summoned by God for 40 nights, first it was 30, and then God completed them by adding 10. I mean, God knew he was for 40 nights, right? But saying 40 nights and then saying 30 and then adding them by 10, as the footnote says, is there to allow all these numbers to be added, so God willing, at the end, it can become a multiple of 19. That's part of the mathematical proof of the Quran with the number 19. As you can see, the number is a multiple of 19. And so the fact that the mountain was not able to withstand God's physical presence, it says that when God manifested himself to the mountain crumbled, right? And that's why on the day of judgment, when God comes physically near us, down to close to earth, the earth and the skies will shatter. The mountains will be, God says, like fluffy wool on that day, because they cannot withstand God's physical presence. And so this is kind of like what started happening. So Moses, and that allowed Moses to lose his consciousness. But he said he became the most convinced believer because, I mean, he literally saw, the manifestation of God at least being shown indirectly to a mountain. I mean, God was so kind even to let Moses, witness that. And God said he has chosen him from all the people by speaking to him also. I mean, not only that, God, out of all the people, I mean, God chose to speak with only one person, like with a physical voice, and that was Moses. And then God gave him all the tablets and wrote all the commandments for him. All right, so God willing, I'll continue reading. Verse 146, divine intervention keeps the disbelievers in the dark. I will divert from my revelations those who are arrogant on earth without justification. Consequently, when they see every kind of proof, they will not believe. And when they see the path of guidance, they will not adopt it as their path. But when they see the path of straying, they will adopt it as their path. This is the consequence of their rejecting our proofs and being totally heedless thereof. Those who reject our revelations and the meaning of the hereafter, their works are nullified. Are they requited only for what they committed? So, a very profound fact that shows to us that divine intervention is something that happens for the disbelievers. We often come across people that, we try to give the message to, but these people are blocked. Yet there are sometimes come across people that you talk to them, they're open-minded, they're able to see it. And all that is controlled by God's knowledge of these people, right? If people are sincere, God allows them to be guided, but people who are wicked, people who are wicked disbelievers, God says there is divine intervention that prevents these people, actively prevents these people from believing. And when they see every path of guidance and every good path, they will not follow it. And when they see anything bad, they'll be attracted to it, And this is what happens across the board for the disbelievers, how they are divinely prevented from accepting the truth. And God willing, we can definitely comment on the verses. Once we finish reading, God willing, we'll comment on them. Definitely, good comments there. Okay, so God says He will divert everyone who is arrogant without justification. And we see that, and God says these people who reject God's revelations and reject the meaning of the hereafter, God nullifies all their works, right? So people who don't believe in God, people who don't believe in meeting Him, eventually all their works are nullified. All the good things they've been doing in this world, quote unquote good things, they're all nullified. The golden calf, verse 148. During his absence, Moses' people made from the jewelry the statue of a calf, complete with the sound of a calf. Did they not see that it could not speak to them or guide them in any path? They worshipped it, and they thus turned wicked. Okay, so this is profound, and we know this is also in the Old Testament. This really happened. If we didn't see it in the Quran, it would be so difficult to believe. But I guess not so much knowing that all the people are like that. So, despite seeing all the miracles, despite seeing the fact that God set them free from slavery, God drowned Pharaoh's people, God parted the sea for them, and they saw all that, they wanted to create a statue for them. And Moses told them right there that this is disastrous for them. They shouldn't be doing that. And they couldn't wait until Moses left temporarily, and they did the same thing. They made themselves a statue. This is what they wanted. This shows the human tendency to be ignorant, imagine having the messenger come to you and giving you the essence of salvation and showing you very plainly what you're supposed to do. Don't do this one thing, and then when the messenger leaves, just even temporarily, he's not even dead, technically, as far as this world is concerned. And they decide to do that. The first thing, like it's like they were dying to do it. Verse 149 says, finally, when they regretted their action and realized that they had gone astray, they said, unless our Lord redeems us with his mercy and forgives us, we will be losers. When Moses returned to his people angry and disappointed, he said, what a terrible thing you have done in my absence. Could you not wait for the commandments of your Lord? He threw down the tablets. And took hold of his brother's head, pulling him towards himself. Aaron said, son of my mother, the people took advantage of my weakness and almost killed me. Let not my enemies rejoice, and do not count me with the transgressing people. Moses said, my Lord, forgive me and my brother, and admit us into your mercy. Of all the merciful ones, you are the most merciful. So eventually these people repented, right? Apparently. And they regretted what they did. I mean, they apparently did it out of ignorance. I mean, how can you claim ignorance? I mean, it's hard to understand like how people can be so ignorant that they had a living messenger with them, and this is how poorly they did, like right after seeing all the miracles. But Moses blamed his brother, thinking that he was part of it, but we see that Aaron committed no wrongdoing in this. He actually tried to stop them, but they threatened to kill him. So they almost killed him. Like that's how they were. That's how impatient and relentless they were, and how eager they were in their hearts to commit a sin that they couldn't be stopped. They were ready to kill another prophet because he was telling them not to commit idol worship. And then both, obviously, Moses got upset and he blamed his brother, and that wasn't good, of course, for Moses. And he asked God for forgiveness, and for Aaron too. He, I guess, was weak, not to be able to stop them. They were able to worship, build the statue and then worship it in his presence while with his knowledge. Now if you compare that to the story in the Bible, of course, and see like all the blasphemies that they have come up with in addition to that, I mean, it shows to us how corrupted, that how bad that 10% of the corruption is in the Bible. How it also blames Aaron as an active participant somehow in this incident when he was a prophet of God. So this shows to us that you cannot take everything as the truth when you read the Bible, right? And that's why God sent us the Quran, so we have the most accurate history. Anyone who upholds the Quran alone will not go to those sources to find out the truth. Yet we have people, I mean, as unbelievable as it sounds, right? Yet we have people who have the Quran, who have the miracle, yet they're going to the Old Testament to derive their laws and their understanding of submission, right? And naturally they're misled because they were supposed to use the Quran as their only source of guidance, as the only source of truth. Exactly. It says, Moses said, my Lord, forgive me and my brother, and admit us into your mercy. Of all the merciful ones, you're the most merciful. Verse 152, surely those who idolize the calf have incurred wrath from their Lord and humiliation in this life. We thus requite the innovators. So those who uphold other sources besides the Quran are also committing idol worship, right? And God says, God thus requires the innovators who commit idol worship. These people have incurred humiliation in this life. In this life, humiliation for these people, right? I mean, obviously, God allows the believers to be victorious, but the hypocrites, in this case, these people were hypocrites because they said they believed with Moses, but then they idolized the calf in his absence, right? It's not the people of Pharaoh who idolized the calf. It was the people of Moses who supposedly believed with him that they idolized the calf, right? And God says it doesn't matter if you were with the messenger, you idolized the calf, you committed idol worship, all these people have incurred wrath from God. And so these people were not guided after that. I mean, this is a serious thing. Like, people tend to take lightly when they become submitters, that this still happens. When Moses' anger subsided, he picked up the tablets containing guidance and mercy for those who reverence their Lord. Moses then selected 70 men from among his people to come to our appointed audience. When the quake shook them, he said, "My Lord, you could have annihilated them in the past, together with me, if you so willed. Would you annihilate us for the deeds of those among us who are foolish? This must be the test that you have instituted for us. With it you condemn whomever you will and guide whomever you will. You are our Lord and Master, so forgive us. Shower us with your mercy. You are the best forgiver." So we see that there were 70 men that were selected with Moses to come to God's appointed audience where, God spoke to Moses, and God allowed them to be shaken by the quake. And I believe it's referring to, a test about trusting in God, because, when this quake is happening and these people are believers, they would not be punished, for the deeds of the people who were wicked. Obviously, if they didn't participate in it, if they didn't go along with it, those people would not be punished. And so Moses said that this must be a test you have instituted to see whether you guide whomever you will and you condemn whomever you will. So obviously, people who are not strong in their faith in God will start to have bad thoughts, that they're doing something wrong, that, it's the wrath of some idols that they probably burnt, like the statue, he threw it in the sea, or things like that, right? But these people were tested for their belief, God knows our innermost thoughts, what we think, or whether we say it or not, our thoughts are being recorded and we're held responsible for them, right? So when you see something bad happen like that, you think, oh, like, this is going to happen to me now, I'm doomed or whatever. Those thoughts are accounted for, right? God, and obviously those thoughts turn into reactions, people panic, etc. And so this shows that, we are held responsible for our thoughts, and God tests us through different circumstances to test, to bring out our innermost convictions. But really amazing when this is a real blessing from God, none of the other communities from the previous prophets, even the communities from Muhammad, have not been documented in this much detail in the Quran, to give us these lessons. Now, the reason why these lessons are there for us is so we can take heed from them, because they apply to all of us in our time also. People of Moses, Moses was a messenger sent to the children of Israel in Egypt, we also got a messenger, and so now we are being tested, right, in our time. So these examples are there, these lessons are there, to teach us, for us to take heed, for us in order to make sure that we're not going to act like these people, and we will behave better. Of course, people who are destined to believe, people who are destined to be guided, they're not going to fall for idol worship. But apparently, many people do, right? Um, like, we're not supposed to uphold other sources besides the Quran, and yet many people do, right? Um, and God willing, we'll talk more about that. Um, but for now, I will end here. And you guys have any comments or questions, please feel free. Thank you.
MashaAllah, brother, very good study. Thank you.
Thank you.
MashaAllah, good study. Thank you.
MashaAllah, brother. Wonderful.
Thank you, mashallah.
Yeah, so brother, like you read the verses about Moses and the people who followed him eventually and fled from Pharaoh, right? Can
Mm-hmm.
we say, after looking at their behaviors, even after when they are saved, right? Can we say the reason why they followed Moses at the time was not really because they believed, but because they were somehow forced actually by every miracle that Moses has shown them, right? Like they have seen so many miracles. Like because it's also very strange, like very hard to believe that if you have so many people witnessing so many miracles and still, in his absence, I'm sorry, they worship the calf.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can we then say something like that? Like,
I
uh,
mean, there could be other factors also. My opinion, like, they also saw, for example, they also saw Moses winning, right? They also
yeah,
saw,
from
yeah,
Pharaoh.
from Pharaoh. They saw it as a way for them to be able to escape, and also, they were believing at the time that they were going through hard times. So they're just like the people who are bad weather friends that they believed at the time, and when their problems were relieved, then they immediately
Hmm.
turned to wickedness.
Oh yeah, so their children were killed. They were in a very bad situation. Then a guy comes. He says that God has sent him. He shows all these miracles. In a way, fights against Pharaoh and makes sure that like these people can flee from him.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, saves him, of course. Okay. And them seeing all these miracles at that time. Um. Yeah. And then like then is God showing their true nature?
Mm-hmm.
Because remember there's the verse where God says, like God puts us in situations so that our true natures
Mm-hmm.
comes, how
Yeah,
to say,
yeah. Their innermost convictions are exposed.
yeah, so yes, to expose,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So does this then mean that their true identities or their true
Colors.
things were exposed after being saved by from Pharaoh
Mm-hmm.
and being saved from
Mm-hmm.
those difficult times? Yeah.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Because if they were still there and if they were not saved, they couldn't maybe do all these other things or behave in certain
Mm-hmm.
ways
Mm-hmm.
because they were not free.
Yeah, I mean, if you remember in the previous study, the verses before, right? They said, um, the people said, we were persecuted before you came to us and after you came to us, and then Moses said that God will, remove this adversity and then see how you behave. So exactly. Uh, this is what happened. When they uh, had the adversity and hardship removed from them, they become heedless. It says, like also it says in verse 794, it says, whenever we sent a prophet to any community, we afflicted its people with adversity and hardship that they may implore. Then we substituted peace and prosperity in place of that hardship. But alas, they turned heedless and said it was our parents who experienced such hardship before prosperity. Um, so, so they they presented a similar kind of behavior, when they were going through persecution and slavery, and Moses came with the signs. They believed, but when obviously their problems were relieved and now they were free people, then they returned to idolatry.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah, so they were fully exposed, yeah. And brother, like it is also very interesting when Moses leaves them, but like you have Harun there, right? His brother. So
Aaron.
do we know why what the reason was for them to wait for Moses to go? Since like you have Moses, he's a prophet, but Harun is also a prophet.
Well,
Um,
in
so
English we say
y-
Aaron.
sorry?
In English we say Aaron, right?
Oh, Aaron, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, Aaron. So Aaron, his brother is also a prophet, and he was also a part of these miracles, right? Because if I do remember correctly, Aaron was also, putting the staff on the floor, something like that. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But so my question basically is, why were they afraid of Moses and not afraid of Aaron?
Mm-hmm. So
And they waited for Moses to leave them so then they could do what they were doing.
right, right.
Was there a specific reason that we know of? And I don't know if this question is really important, but
Yeah, so we know that it was only Moses that was turning the staff into serpent. And Aaron is not shown the to have exhibited these things, right? It was and then they must have had different personalities too. I mean, Moses, from what is described, is like strong and powerful. You know, and he only issue we see Moses had was he like had a speech impediment that Aaron didn't have, and he was more he was able to speak better, and that was the only thing about Moses. Aaron, he was helping him. But Aaron without Moses was outpowered. We see by these people. So I guess Aaron didn't command the same respect among the people and authority, as much as as much as Moses did. Also we know that Moses grew up with the people of Pharaoh, in royalty.
mm,
So he had
makes really sense.
a different, people responded to him very differently than to Aaron.
Yeah, yeah, makes really sense. Yeah, because they were basically slaves of them, right? So they were used to obey him, and they had maybe for a very long time this feeling. Okay, yeah, brother, mashallah, that makes really a lot of sense.
Mashallah. So I want to add also, brother, my understanding that also because people always try to take the benefit of the people weakness. When the both brother together, so so they expect little bit more. But when they got only the Aaron, so the Moses was not there. So that time they try to take the full, benefit, for the weakness. Maybe this is also another because when you see the people, the two three people, don't play that much. When the people get only one person, and they that time the try to take the opportunity to attack the person. So that's
Hmm.
also the another,
Yeah,
uh,
and in the Quran it says also we sent Aaron as a helper
mhm,
to help Moses. So
mhm.
that's also maybe that could also be a reason why they didn't had that maybe respect or towards him. But in any case, that makes really
Yeah,
sense,
yeah, all
mashallah.
of them. I'm just adding my understanding also, and I want to say also the another issue about yours that also I analyzed so many years, like the people is called the innermost thought. So even though sometimes people they said they believe, but inside their heart is not believing. So even though those they saw the miracle, and for some reason they believed that one, but in their innermost thought they had some confusion, the disease. So God knows that one, so that will be exposed in some day. It's like that. It's like that they you people believe, but inside they had some confusion going through, so they had the disease. So finally, so God exposed them. That's how I understand the innermost thought. Like say today I believe something, but after 5 years I am not going to believe that anymore. But God knows that. That is the innermost thought. Even though I say I believe, but in my heart, innermost thought is denying something. So today or tomorrow it will be exposed by some way from me. That's my understanding, brother.
Yeah, and Masha, there's also this other verse, 2094, where he explains one of the reasons why he didn't really. Can we open that maybe? 2094, I think. 94. Yeah, so he in 95 he said, "What is the matter with you?" Oh no, he said, "I saw what they could not see." No, sorry. 94. He said, "O son of my mother, do not pull me by my beard and my head. I was afraid that you might say, you have divided the children of Israel and disobeyed my orders." They said, "We will continue to worship it until Moses comes back." And then Moses said, "Oh, Aaron, what is it that prevented you when you saw them go astray from following my orders? Have you rebelled against me?" And then he said, "Oh, my son." Okay, so this is maybe also a
Oh, my
part of where,
son.
sorry?
Oh, my son.
Oh,
Oh, my
son of
brother.
my mother. Oh,
Oh, son
son
of
of
my
my mother.
brother.
They were brothers.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
then this is also maybe like, because some can argue that Aaron was, afraid of, going against them. But this is also like, of course, if a lot of people are trying to kill you, then you need to take some
yeah,
measurement. But
yeah,
this is also
exactly.
one of the reasons he said, "I was afraid that you might say you have divided the children of Israel and disobeyed my orders." That's
Well,
maybe
it's
also.
he said that they almost killed him, so he basically at that time, like, he could have lost his life, in other words, I mean, he did what he could, which shows he did what he could. He told them that so it's not like Aaron didn't do anything. Aaron told him, like, don't do this, and he stopped them, obviously, from doing that, but they didn't listen to him. And he was outpowered, outnumbered, and they didn't care for him. Like Moses, for example, when Moses punched a person, he was so strong physically that the guy died, right? But Aaron probably didn't have that same uh, presence and that same type of personality, and they didn't care about what Aaron was saying. As a prophet, he stood against it. It's not like he's like um, uh, Honorable Brother made the comment about he didn't divide the people. Now, I think division is often misunderstood in context by people. I mean, like in this case, I mean, uh, even I guess Aaron would know that he this does not divide the people. Like he was, you have to, if someone's committing idol worship, you have to say you're committing idol worship, and he told them you're committing idol worship, and he was afraid of being blamed by Moses in the end, which he did end up getting blamed, anyways. But the thing is,
He
Aaron
hold his
didn't do
head.
anything. Yeah, but he didn't do anything wrong in this whole situation, which is why also Moses asked for forgiveness after that, right? So it's not like he did anything wrong. Like he didn't say that, okay, I'm just gonna compromise and not say anything until Moses comes back, you know. He did everything anybody would do or should do at the time when he saw that. Like he said, this is horrible what you're doing. You shouldn't be doing this. Obviously, we also know that there's no compulsion in religion. If you're a prophet of God and you see people disbelieving, I mean, you're not gonna um, you're not going to physically stop them, most likely, right? I mean, you will. I mean, you can tell people what you're committing is idol worship, right? But you can't force them to become believers. But what Moses did, maybe Aaron can't do. He just took it and threw it in the sea. Uh, but he just did it, also at the time when he was angry, right? It says Moses was angry when his anger subsided, right? So he was angry when that happened, but when you see someone going astray, insisting on disbelieving, you will talk to them. I will not, like, for example, when I see a community of submitters, so-called submitters, acting poorly and committing idol worship and following innovations, the most I could do is remind them, right? I can do is remind them, right? And I can't physically prevent them from doing that. But they did advise him, right? Both of them. So I guess what I'm trying to say is about the division thing. Sometimes people think that you can be, if someone's committing idol worship, like in your community, like you allow them to practice idol worship just to so that there's no division or anything like that. But there's no such thing. Like he was just telling them that this is bad for you and you shouldn't be doing it. And so yeah. So I mean, uh, I guess this other uh, I'm responding to this other comment about division. So, but I mean, what Aaron to me, like what Aaron was saying, that I was afraid you might say, doesn't mean that he actually did something wrong. He said he was afraid that you would come and say that you have divided them. Like some people are committing idol worship now, and some people are worshiping God. And he didn't want that to happen, right? Or he didn't just get up and leave before Moses came back. He was waiting for him. But it wasn't like he's saying, no, we shouldn't be divided. Like let's all stay in one community, and you're at worship and I'll worship God. Like it's not like that, right? I mean, just to be clear. In fact, actually, yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I'm saying again about my point being a good point. I mean, in fact, like we see, another place. I'm going to read that. Um, it is in. Why is my search not working? Well, the verse where when the people refused to fight with Moses, this is in Surah 5 verse 25. He said, "My Lord, I can only control myself and my brother, so allow us to part company with the wicked people." Right. So at one point, they parted company with these wicked people because they were not taking heed. And they were just more of a liability, so to speak, for the people of Moses, and just pulling other people, just more of a bad influence for the rest of them. That eventually they had to part company.
Yeah, mashallah, we see a big part of a big disaster is social oppression. In other words, acquiescing to the people's wishes. Because in like some of the verses I shared the other day about forbidding evil, this is something that uh, I mean, I don't think you can attain righteousness until you do these things, because it's in several verses throughout the Quran. So But yeah, this is a good reminder for people. You speak out against what's wrong, what's incorrect, and you don't acquiesce to the people's wishes. You'll be as bad as they are. So you have to remind them, and if they choose to go astray or or divide themselves, that's all right. At least you did your part, and you spoke the truth.
Yeah, so the people that were punished, that was not Moses. Those were the people who they had to part company with. They were the ones who were
Yeah, mashallah. So
who were
when you read
punished.
20, brother, when you read from 24, 5:24, he said, they said, "Oh Moses, we will never enter it so long as they are in it. Therefore, go you and your Lord and fight. We are sitting right here." He said, "My Lord, I can only control myself and my brother, so allow us to part company with the wicked people." And in the 26, he said, "Henceforth it is forbidden them for 40 years, during which they will roam the earth aimlessly. Do not grieve over such wicked people." So those are the ones who didn't want to follow the orders, Those were punished, not Moses.
That's right. That's right. And also, I guess there was another comment about by Brother David. It says, right, then what I notice is that God tells us not to compromise, but at the same time repeatedly tells us not to divide, maintaining the balance we can see is difficult when you have human ego play a role. So not so okay, so there's two things, right? There's no balance when it comes to compromise. You don't compromise. You're not supposed to compromise whatsoever. Like,
At all,
for
yeah.
example, yeah, for example, when the uh, messenger, talked about insurance, he says there's no compromise whatsoever on insurance. There's no compromise if you want to do idol worship, right? There's absolutely no compromise if you want to create innovations. We're not compromising, but the thing is, when it comes to division, division is not you going and praying in a mosque, you going praying in another mosque. Division is you separating yourself from the believers by your religion, by your belief. If if I invent a fifth practice in submission, I have already divided from the believers by creating a religion of my own with innovations and belief, when by not taking the Quran alone, for example, right? That's division happened right there. It's very conceptual, like you being in the same room as a Christian doesn't mean you're united, right? You could still be different people of different religions being in the same room, but God says, you think they're united, but their hearts are divided, right? So the hearts are divided, the religion is divided, whether you're in the same room or in the same mosque or in the same chat room. That's physical unity is not uh, what we're talking about, right? When Aaron talks about, like, I was afraid that you said you had divided the children of Israel, like, he's not talking about physical division from these people. um, these people were worshiping idols. He tried to stop them, but he knew that Moses is going to come back soon. So that's
Yeah, brother, and also probably it was not all of them. It's also possible that some of them were not doing that type of thing, and some of them are doing it, right?
no,
That would be
it,
also one of the reasons.
it was very few people, based on what
Yeah.
we see, that were not doing it. It was almost like pretty much all of them were doing it.
Mm-hmm.
The point that was just Aaron was telling them not to do this, and most people got sucked into it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Maybe Moses' mother was not part of it.
Yeah, like dividing in that way. Like some of them are doing it, some of them aren't, and then
Hmm.
a few of them would maybe
Yeah, but
stay
we don't
with.
see.
But
But
okay.
see, the
Any
thing
case,
is,
there is no
yeah,
information, right, about it. So I think
exactly,
asking about it, yeah,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't, like, we cannot draw drastic conclusions from these statements because it doesn't say that. For example, like, Aaron. for example, compromise or something like that, you know, like or found a balance of compromise or not compromising. You know, like we cannot compromise. Like he's a messenger and prophet of God. If sees people going astray, he has to tell them what you're doing is wrong. I mean, compromise would be like, I'm not saying anything. You know, like, yeah, I mean, what do you think, yeah, you know, about this statue? Yeah, and Aaron would be like, yeah, that's whatever floats your boat or something. He didn't say anything like that. Obviously, he told them that this was disastrous for them, but they took advantage of the fact that, you know, it says his weakness. He took advantage of his weakness. That was it. So I wouldn't necessarily read further into it, and draw conclusions about division. You know, so I mean, I want to clarify this one thing about division, right? Because it keeps popping up every now and then. Basically, people thinking that you cannot stand up for the truth and you know, put your foot down when it comes to, you know, following your religion, and setting you know, the foundation straight, you know, for people who want to convolute it, right? And Moses' example, let's focus on Moses' example. It's a good example, right? Moses didn't tolerate it for one day, right? So why don't we look at that? You know, Moses didn't tolerate it for one day. Told them it was bad, and they should stop immediately. You know, once he came back, and it was stopped immediately, right? And the person that we're talking about, obviously the people that were worshiping the calf, they repented, and asked God for forgiveness. So why would Moses kick them out, right? It wasn't like, yeah, you commit idol worship, but let's just all be brothers and sisters, and forget about this. No, those people repented, right? And that's why, you know, they were with them at the time until other things happened, and then finally, you know, they had to part company. But you know, at that time, you know, they Moses was angry and everything, but you know, they said, oh, you know, we were tricked into it and everything by Sumerian, and then obviously Sumerian was you know, he told them to get out, right? But I mean, that doesn't support the idea of compromising with the people of, you know, idolatrous ideas, and just telling them that they're part of the same community. I mean, I don't see that at all.
Yeah, it's actually, it proves actually that he doesn't compromise. That's, it proves it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
He
the
was
proof. Yeah.
Aaron was just waiting for him to come back, because he was powerless. He couldn't do anything, right? He was just waiting. When Moses came back, I mean, they took the right steps. Yeah, they were idol worshiping, literally.
Yes, brother, you are right. I was going, you know that long time. So yeah, so I also come to the same conclusion. So when you separate, you are separating from the different belief. So you are not separating the religion. You are not dividing the religion. We are not. You are just you are keeping the religion intact and pure. If
Exactly,
someone, yeah,
yes.
if someone is trying to add innovation, so
Hmm.
or add something, and it's not authorized by God, so they are the one will be blamed by
Who are
God.
dividing.
They
Yeah,
were
they're
the
the one
one
who are
actually
dividing.
the
Yeah,
divided.
yeah.
So yeah. So it's based on the person's situation and time. As soon as they see, of my issue was, I took time, for some reason, God knows, so when you see, oh, this is happening, okay, let's see.
Hmm.
And maybe you sometimes you are not you did not come to the conclusion, for
Hmm.
some reason. So but
Right.
you can take time or see, but we cannot like do for the for, for forever. to to give them comfort to innovate something, is what is not authorized by God.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's my understanding. You can
Mhm.
take some time based on the situation, but we cannot allow, forever. Oh, because of the unity, so we have to be united. Okay, whatever the
Mhm.
people are doing, we have to raise the voice. Some
Right.
point.
Mhm.
If
Yeah.
there is any innovation.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, and there's this thing, right, where, like, for example, eventually when you talk to people and you give them the message, and after a long period of time and doing your best to give them the message, when you see that they are not accepting, then, at some point it stops. Like, even in the verse,
Mhm.
it says, like, your religion is yours, you're not going
Mhm.
to follow my religion, I'm not going to follow
Mhm.
yours, like,
Mhm.
so we have a
So
verse
use
in
your
the
religion
Quran.
to me is my religion.
Sorry?
Use your religion and to me is my religion.
Yes, yes.
That
So
one.
there is a moment where you
Mhm.
eventually need to say this, and there are also other verses where God says that you need to part from them. Like, we have also the example of Noah, right? After so many years, he giving the message, and eventually he sees and he says in the Quran that, oh my God, these people, they are not going to believe in you. Like, he like, after so many years, right, giving the message,
Mhm.
eventually he what is it called, he makes a judgment. Yeah, right, he makes a judgment. Eventually he says they are definitely not gonna believe in you, and they will not worship you.
Mhm.
Yeah. Brother David was saying Moses only kicked out the Sumerian, but the ones who still had idol worship in their heart stayed, and he worked to bring them back. No, question mark. But Moses kicked out the
No,
individual who caused the
no,
split.
because
Well,
the
let
reason
me finish.
only. Go ahead,
I don't
brother.
know. Did you read it, brother? And did you read? I can finish
I
it. I know, I know. I'll finish
yeah,
the whole thing.
yeah, yeah.
While
Go ahead.
Aaron hesitated not to divide, and these are prophets, us as humans, shouldn't we constantly strive to correct the wrong thoughts while participating in the righteous actions without dividing? Question mark, especially when it comes to interpretations. No, this was Brother
Mhm.
David asking.
Yeah. Yeah, so the thing is, like I said before, brother, like the only reason they were still with them because it says, if you read the verse, it says that they repented, right? They, these people repented eventually when they realized, like when they were worshiping. Let me find the verse here, right? When it was the same when these people were, like, doing magic, right? They repented. That's why they joined them, right? And then here we see that when these people were doing, it says finally when they regretted their action and realized they had gone astray, they said, this is verse 149. Okay, so let's, brother David, please read verse 149. This is telling you why these people were still with Moses. I mean, imagine if these people have done idol worship and they're repenting, and you say to them, "No, you guys are idol worshippers, just leave." That's not right, right? So because of this verse, you can see here
Which
it says
chapter,
verse
brother?
149. So
Which chapter?
same, so we just same verse we
Oh,
just read today, 7:149. Says finally, when they regretted their action, they realized this was about the golden calf, right? For example, they saw that when the golden calf, finally, when they regretted their action and realized they had gone astray, they said, unless our Lord redeems us with mercy and forgives us, we'll be losers. So these people were not like ardent, like full blown idol worshippers. They had these idolatrous tendencies. When Moses reminded them, like they repented, they asked for forgiveness. Again, when this happened again, then Moses told them that this was wrong what you guys did. They probably exhibited the same action, right, at that time also. So they were not like saying no, we did, like they didn't fight with him against it. They accepted it. um, because they listened to him. In other words, at the time, so he let them,
It is
and we
clearly
should do this.
regretted.
Yeah, yeah. So we should do the same thing. Like if someone's committing a mistake in this manner, right? And you remind them, like, hey, you know what? This is what you're thinking is wrong, or what you're saying about God is wrong, and they accept it. Then you have no reason to want to leave them or anything, right? I mean, so you give them a chance, right? And the same way Moses gave them a chance because they seemingly did the right thing, by accepting it. They weren't
Mm.
opposed to it.
Yeah, and throughout the whole process, like starting from Moses, when he was in Egypt, even through that whole
Mm-hmm.
process, God is guiding him.
Mm-hmm.
Like God is telling him what to
Exactly.
do. He says, you need to do
Yeah.
this, do that, go
Yeah.
this, tell them this and that. So, like we can clearly see that all the time, God is guiding him and telling him
Mm-hmm.
exactly what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And in fact, Sumerian was the troublemaker in that case. Like, Sumerian was the one who was doing that first with the calf, and then later on. Um, so, I mean, he was when Moses saw that, obviously he kicked him out, right?
Yeah, the rotten apple.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if he would stay there, he would still, right, keep on doing that type
Mm-hmm.
and try to divide
Yeah.
people. So then,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and this shows, right, like eventually Moses is a leader in that community and people are listening to him. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
like God is directly guiding him and telling him what to do, but this person is a leader there, and you have people making mistakes, and you have people listening to, like for example, this guy, and then he is, giving a solution. And if Sumerian would also repent, probably he didn't, then he would have also a chance to redeem himself, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Plus, also, Moses realized that Sumerian was doomed, so that's why he told him that. Obviously, if Sumerian was believing with him, and he wasn't maliciously doing this, and he actually was a believer. Moses would never tell him to leave. But when you see,
Hmm.
you know, when you see someone, and this is general, I'm not talking about the people of Moses, right? And we shouldn't draw conclusions. When you see hope for people, you will let them. You will
Of
talk to
course.
them. But these people, they were completely, this guy Sumerian, he was an evil person, and
Hmm.
Moses saw that, and that's why he kicked him out.
Like he went to the mountain and he
Mhm.
he took a little bit of the sand where God's voice was echoed on, like can you
Mhm.
imagine you going there knowing that Moses talks with
Mhm.
God and then taking the sand, bringing it there, building a calf and then letting people worship it? Like this is
Yeah, very
really evil,
premeditated.
very evil, and then
Very evil.
like what do you expect Moses had done, right, to that type of a
Yeah.
person?
Yeah,
Like,
like he
and
had a lot
like
of
he
time to
didn't
think
kill
about
him.
it.
Like he
Mhm.
didn't kill him, right? He didn't like.
Mhm.
What did he do to him? He didn't kill him. He just
Mhm.
told him to go away. So
Mhm. It was a
yeah,
bad influence.
yeah, very bad influence. Yeah, like can you imagine, brother? You as a human being, you are gonna go to that area knowing that God, and then take sand, and then you need to plan all these things, right? Like you're so
Mhm.
wicked. While
Mhm.
you have seen like so many
Mhm.
miracles and Moses
Yeah.
and yeah, so what does it say about that person? His
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I really don't know what we're getting at with this whole division thing. To be honest, I mean,
It seems the question was already explained in good detail
mhm.
earlier, so it just seems like it's being reworded. Unless David actually still doesn't understand. But
division
I mean,
about what? Like with with Aaron, or like, or is it something
no,
else
well,
now?
just said he says. So, how do you relate this story in regards to Semitic communities who divide over interpretations, each believing? I mean, it's the same thing like with the over
Is it off
thousand
topic?
sects in Christianity. They all think that they have the truth. But I mean, if you look at if you're guided by God,
Brother.
if you look at what they're preaching,
Yeah, sorry,
uh,
is this off topic? Maybe like we shouldn't like we should actually talk
right,
about the verses, right? And then
right.
I mean,
afterwards, when it's finished, I don't
I
know.
mean,
I'm not sure.
it's posted as it's. I can hear myself feedback. Maybe John, I think you can mute. Yeah. So is that no someone? Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So I was saying that this was posted as a verse, related verse that we read, right, based on the what we just read. So it's not off topic. But I think some of us may have the wrong idea about division or compromise. I mean, um, when are you supposed to compromise? I mean, I need to see like when you should compromise. There's no compromise
Right.
when
There's
it comes
never
to
a
God.
case where you should compromise. Even in Surah
Yeah,
72,
God says
you said that as for the compromises, there'll be fuel for jihad.
for hell. Mm,
Yeah, I mean, we're also given an example of Muhammad. I mean, even if you lean towards them a little bit, we would have doubled the retribution.
mm,
And also, there's verses about acquiescing to the people's wishes. I mean, this is what
mm,
people do when they're not, when they try to, please people, please, and make everybody or try to have people get along. I mean, that's exactly what Satan wants. I mean, this inclusivity. I mean, you see it creep in the churches and mosques to the
mm,
point of where they're, allowing, perversion in these places and openly, and people are. And people, and Satan has ways of tricking people and duping people and all kinds of ways to justify it. But this is exactly the nature of the human and what, uh, I mean, in part, it was played and why we're here to, not be wishy washy. Because
mm.
this, you have to, wishy washy is unaccepted. God doesn't want these people. I mean, that's what got us in here in the first place. So we have to correct that. So that's all.
Yeah, we cannot compromise even just a little bit, based on the Quran. Brother, you already explained. So some people said, "Oh, I can compromise up to this level." Is this that is by based on the Quran and the teaching of the Messenger of Covenant is nothing like that. We cannot compromise just a little
Mm.
bit in outside of the
Yeah,
Quran. This
yeah.
is
I
the
mean, like
main.
I can.
This is the main goal, main
Mm,
thing.
mm. Yeah, I mean, like if you say like Moses' favorite color was green and I say it was red, we can compromise on that because it has nothing to do with anything as far as our belief is concerned, our practices are concerned, our fundamentals are concerned. But when it comes to these fundamentals that are, God teaches us as part of our religion. You can't let those things be normalized in your community, or like if I say, okay, you believe, for example, homosexuality is okay, like submitters can be gay, like, yeah, you're part of my community, I'll accept you. I mean, that's not right, because then you're confusing the rest of the people that are going to come after you. You're going to think, okay, this is also submission. Someone comes in the mosque, say, okay, you can also believe that it is okay to be homosexual as a submitter, and then someone else can believe that it's not okay, and then you constantly fester these types of ideas in your community, and it will continue to grow. You know, you have to nip it in the bud when it starts. You just uh, tell it for what it is, and you let them know that this is not acceptable. I mean, we have many clear examples, and for example, we had this example of this guy from Switzerland, um, who was constantly promoting falsehood in the Quranic studies. Eventually, the Messenger of the Covenant told him, he said, "I think you should go back." He said, "You're a bad influence." And later on, they even found out that he was a spy. But that he
Yeah,
didn't
Eric.
wait till he found out he was a spy. When he was saying these things, and he's saying a 16-year-old girl can get pregnant, maybe she's a good person. He's like, what kind of good person will do these types of things that you're promoting, you know. And he was promoting like violence against children, your children, you know, like hitting them to discipline them and stuff like that. And he heard a couple of these ideas, and he's like, maybe you should go back. You know, you're not a good influence.
Yeah, he even said, "Don't talk about your ideas when I'm not here." He didn't even want them to
Mm-hmm.
talk with others with his
Mm-hmm.
ideas. But
Right.
maybe like, does brother mean with compromise? Does he mean like giving people who don't know the message yet some time to talk and discuss and to, you know, is that
Well,
maybe
that's not
what?
really compromised, is it?
Yeah,
That's
because yeah,
No,
just
no.
that's not
giving. That's just
compromise.
giving
Maybe
person. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
That's just
so
giving person time and being
yeah,
nice. God, being
yes.
not just being kind and giving them adequate time. Just like because some people it takes longer than others. You know.
Maybe
Mhm.
that's the point I don't know, I'm not sure. Maybe that's the thing that he
Yeah. No compromise would be like this person
yeah.
made up their mind. They wanna like homosexuality is okay, and then be. You would say, oh yeah, maybe
Circumcision.
you're right. It's no big deal. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can believe that way and come promote
Mm-hmm.
your message to our Quran. You know, for
Yeah.
example.
Because there are a lot of these groups, you know, who call themselves submitters, and you know, they say, yeah, it's all okay, you can believe in that, it's fine, you can believe that circumcision, you know, like so many things.
Yeah.
Also insurance, for example.
Yeah,
Well,
Yeah,
like the
but
letter,
we don't compromise.
like
Yeah,
the letter
that's
I received today, right, from this one person who said, "Oh yeah, it's
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
You believe it's not part of religion. You know, we don't believe it's part of religion, you know." But you know, it was a tradition given to Abraham from God. But you know, I think we should continue to
you know.
communicate.
Peace. I don't know if I can be heard.
Yeah.
Just to clarify,
Mm-hmm.
I've only been a submitter for about 6 months, 5 to 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mashallah.
exactly,
Mashallah.
alhamdulillah, and it's been a beautiful process, and at the same time, it's also been a painful process because obviously, as you become more and more familiar with different submitter communities, you see a lot of the strife and over interpretations, over different rulings, whether vaccines are haram, whether circumcisions are haram, whether praying behind hypocrites, like all of these, everyone has a different
Mm-hmm.
set of rulings, and you're seeing constant division based on what I ultimately see is interpretation and how somebody wants to take it. Every single interpretation has its merits and has their rightful arguments, and I understand the arguments, but I don't see why division should be happening when we're not talking about worshiping a human. We're not talking about idolizing Rasha. We're not talking about,
It's the
uh,
same. It's the same,
yeah,
brother. If you accept that circumcision is part of religion, or you accept certain things, you know, it's idol worship. Like it's the same as
Mm-hmm.
worshiping a calf, or like making Muhammad a god, or accepting that Jesus is God. It's exactly
right.
the same thing.
No, I
So
understand the argument.
yeah,
That's the thing, is that every single community has that same approach. If you don't listen, if you don't accept my interpretation, you're committing idol worship. You get
No,
me?
no. So do you think
you need
it's
to have
do you
evidences.
think do you think all these possibilities are part of the religion? Like circumcision being part of religion or not? Like both of them are part of our religion?
So
Like we have to think
circumcision is
about
not
this
in the
way.
Quran, right? It's not something that
Is
we're
it
ordered to do.
is
And
it
there's
part
a
of our
verse
religion?
that's no. Well, I mean,
It's
if you
not,
look at it
right?
from
It's not.
the Sunni
It's not.
perspective, yes, but from our
No, no, I'm
perspective, no.
talking
Yeah.
I'm talking about in submission, it's not part of our religion. So if someone says it is a part of our religion, they're the ones who are dividing the religion. They're the ones who are committing idol worship, right? So we are supposed to hold fast to the rope of God. God says, and do not be divided, right? Well, God is telling us, not dividing your religion, you know, not dividing your religion into these sects. I mean, what have these sects done? They have done the same thing that these people are doing now, you know, history just repeating itself. And I agree with you, what they're doing is bad. They have deviated from the truth, you know, by doing these things. I mean, vaccines were not prohibited, you know, and I don't want to get into the science, for example, you know, but if people start creating prohibitions that are not, uh, you know, part of the Quran, they're not given to us, yeah, you should stand up for the truth. I mean, if that means that you have to get rid of these bad apples that are, you know, spreading these ideas, I mean, then let it be it, you know. If these people are destined to go astray, of course, you try everything you can to save these people, to help these people, to make sure that your religion stays intact and purified, and then these people can also be guided. But if these people insist upon disbelieving and going astray, we can prevent them, right? If someone is hell bent on, literally hell bent on innovating and promoting these ideas, or applying them in their own lives. I mean, you can't stop them from doing that. They're going to do it anyways, right? So allowing them to be with your group and spreading it, is not going to help anybody. It's not going to help that person because he's already astray, and it's not going to help other people also, right? This is not division. This is just you tolerating something, right? Like homosexuality, for example, and how we know what the messenger says about homosexuality and you tolerating it, right? What does he say? He says you could be hit by an earthquake, right? So, I mean, I'm just giving homosexuality as an example that applies to every other concept. So when people are doing these things, they have to be told what they're doing is wrong and it's not part of our religion, so that other people don't follow in their footsteps and they don't promote that type of hypocritical ideas to the rest of us, right? I mean, you're responsible, and the messenger. And this is not division, right? Because the messenger talks about this also. He says it's a part of a sifting process, and he says it's healthy. And when two people leave, he says, one person leaves, two new people. I'm paraphrasing, but something similar. He said, God will bring more people. It's not. You don't have to worry about it's not your job, first of all, to make sure you have a big community that you can boast about. And I'm not saying we're doing that here, but a lot of people are doing that. To say, okay, well, I want to have 300, 400, 500 people in my congregation and boast about, oh, we have the great grand Quran study, we have the mega study, whatever. But, on the day of judgment, these things will not matter. It doesn't matter how many people are in your congregation, and how powerful you are and how big you are in numbers. I mean, we're not responsible for that. We're responsible. We did not side with God in the high society. Our job here is to stand up for God, stand up for the truth, promote worship of God alone, promote Quran alone. When you promote Quran alone, you can't promote all these other things, and you can't stand, for all these things to be corrupted, and you allowing all these things to fester in your community. I mean, it's nobody would do that, should do that, right? And we're not, and we're against people, fabricating lies about God, innovating, saying things that are prohibited that are not prohibited, and prohibiting things that are, and not prohibiting things that are prohibited, right? All of those are serious things. God says, "Who's more evil than those who fabricate lies and attribute them to God?" So, several places in the Quran, So people who are attributing lies to God, I mean, there's no compromise. You're attributing a lie to God, you know, you should stop immediately, right? And if they don't stop, and if they want to insist on their ways, then they can continue to do that as they have the full freedom, right? So if they want to go and start their own Quran study or their own mosque, nobody can stop them from doing that. That's going to happen, right? But the sin of doing that is on who? Is on the people who are doing these things and promoting unquranic lies, and falsely attributing it to God and to the messenger, right? Those people will get their sin. But the people who stood by God, like in this case, Moses was standing and Samaritan left. Moses is not going to be held responsible. Like, God is not going to say to Moses, like, "Hey, why did you kick out Samaritan? Weren't you supposed to unite and have a some sort of a compromise?" No, there was no compromise. In fact, all those other people also left them eventually, and that they parted, said, "Let us allow us to part company with the wicked people." That's what Moses said. Moses, the prophet of God, right? Uh, and we have the same example with the messenger of the covenant. I mean, people were coming and going, right? This time when the messenger was promoting the religion, people were coming and they were socializing and getting to know each other. And then eventually, people were leaving. These things were happening. And he said, this is a sifting process. It's healthy. We shouldn't think. So I shouldn't think. I mean, at least I don't think that way. I see there's 5 submitters. I'm happy that there are 5 submitters. And if there's like 20 or 2,000 people, on the other side that are, making circumcision an optional thing or a sunnah, or making circumcision an obligatory practice like fard, like Shias and Sunnis, um, I think that's sect, yeah, and they shouldn't be dividing the religion that way. But that's on them, right? By us, not being part of that, we're not responsible for their actions, because here we stand up for God alone and Quran alone, right? And if people want to do these things, we condemn those things, right? We condemn division and innovating and fabrications, right? But we're not going to join these people and allow ourselves to be corrupted by them, because God says that these people, they're hypocrites, right? Because they're attributing lies to God. Those people are hypocrites. You will not befriend these people. You will not sit with these people. The reason why we're forced to be in Quranic study groups is so we can be with the believers. And the reason why we're told not to befriend the hypocrites, for that reason, that they don't rub off on us, right? And God says, once you realize that they're hopelessly stuck, you should run for your lives. So that is true, right? And you can't stop that process, the sifting process, as the messenger calls it. That's gonna happen, right? It has happened throughout history in the past. If the Protestants and the Christians like stayed together, I mean, Protestants and the Catholics stayed together, I mean, they would not help anybody. They just multiply a number, but it doesn't help anybody. I mean, the Shias and Sunnis, if they stayed together, would they help each other in any way? No. What was wrong and devastating for them was the fact that they innovated these lies, right? If they stayed united, that would not redeem them in any way. So they should have been with us. Are we responsible, for example, for them having their separate mosques? No, they are responsible for their own actions. So likewise, if a bunch of people among submitters decide tomorrow to invent some lies due to their extreme interpretations, they're responsible for it. Our job is to let them know that this is wrong. We can talk to them, if they're willing to listen. But if they're stuck in their ways and they decide that this is the truth, then then that's what they deserve at that point.
Mashallah, brother. Nice. Yeah, wonderful explanation. And also in the recent history, even the Prophet Muhammad, in that time, they were praying, almost the Salah, Zakat, almost intact. But when God guided him, so he separated from their, from that, I mean, their from their his community. And also even the grandson of Prophet Muhammad in the history, the Hussein and Hassan, and also Ali, and they fight back when they added the 2 verses of the Quran. It's long time. They fight back actually when they inject the 2 verses in the Quran. So they separated from that also that time. And also Rashid Khalif also, he separated from the traditional Muslim. So they were not divided. They were trying to keep the religion pure and intact. That's the thing. That's the concept.
Yeah, exactly, mashallah. Yeah, I mean, so wow, you got a lot of packages. So, I mean, so I think the sister with no name, she asked a question about, I think we call you Rosie, right? So Rosie asked a question about, so Sister Rosie asked a question about circumcision. Is banning circumcision not creating a law? Like, I don't understand. I guess we should clarify that, like, what banning means, right? Like, if you're saying that, um, like hadith and sunnah are prohibited, right? We understand that. Do we all agree? Do you agree, sister, that hadith and sunnah are prohibited by God, and following inherited traditions is prohibited? You know, can we agree to that? Is it creating a law if I say that you cannot follow hadith and sunnah, you should follow Quran alone? I think if you respond, then I'll move on to the next part of that. Right? I just want to hear it from you that you actually agree with me on that. Um, right? Sorry? What is sorry? Oh, I'm eating. Ask again. Okay. Yeah. So I was saying, do we? So I'm referring to the comment about the question about the circumcision, right? You said, is banning circumcision not creating a law, right? So I was going to say, like, we talk about prohibiting circumcision, right? So can we say that hadith and sunnah, all hadith and sunnah are prohibited? Like we should not follow hadith and sunnah or advocate hadith and sunnah, right? So that's not creating a law, right? And you following Quran alone is not creating a law. So there's people out there that decide to uphold other scriptures, in addition to the Quran, like actually upholding laws that are not in the Quran, such as circumcision. So we're not supposed to do that, right? Also, can we agree that we're not creating a law if we tell someone they cannot chop off their daughter's fingers? Can we say that they're creating a law if I say you can't chop off your daughter's fingers or your son's fingers? That's not creating a law, is it? Would I be creating a law if I said that? Would I be creating a law if I said that you cannot, like, if you have a daughter born in your family, like, a baby girl, let's say, you cannot, like, sever her breast tissues so that she doesn't grow up to get breast cancer, right? Can I say it's prohibited for you to do that, right? Because it's aggression, right? Also, God says that He created us in the best design, He perfected our design, right? So I have to believe that. If I think that I can make it better somehow, that this very delicate and complex part of my body will actually be better, that they know better than God, you can never make it better, right? So people, when God says that God created us in a perfect design, He created us, He perfected our design, He created us in the best design. Do we actually believe it, or are we just offering lip service, right? So we can deduce that very easily by all this logic, that there's common sense. Like the same reason I can't go cut off my daughter's ear so she doesn't get an ear infection. I can, for the same reason, I'm not supposed to cut a part of their body, whether male or female. Right? The messenger doesn't talk about male or female circumcision. So in those terms, one can say that we're creating a law by saying that you cannot have female circumcision or male circumcision, or female genital mutilation and male genital mutilation. We know, in fact, from the Quran that the messenger, I mean, that God said in the Quran that Satan is, sorry, that we know from based on the Quran that Satan is recorded saying in the Quran that he will encourage people to commit mutilation, distort the creation of God, right? That's mutilation, and how it's mutilation is because it doesn't come back to its original form. It's not like cutting your hair that grow back, right? When you permanently disfigure a part of the person's body, that's mutilation, right? Disfiguring a person's body permanently that doesn't grow back. And literally, that's what Satan said. I will command them to distort his creation, and I'll promise them, like promising what? Oh, you'll have a better functioning this, and that, I mean, it's different. It's not prohibited in the sense that, if your child is diagnosed with, let's say, penile cancer, I don't want to make this graphic or anything, but like, let's say your child is diagnosed with penile cancer and you have to sever the whole organ, it's not prohibited, right, in that sense. But you cannot go around doing stupid things and saying it's okay. Like, I cannot, for the same reason, I cannot go and cut someone's toe, for no reason. They didn't do anything wrong. I go cut off their toe. That's aggression, and taking away from something that God gave to them. That's not creating a law. That's you just stating the law. Like, hey, God says you can't do that.
Yeah.
If Satan is saying that he's gonna encourage people to commit mutilation, it's already prohibited, right? It's the same thing like when some people say, well, God says
Yeah.
alcohol is not prohibited because other things are forbidden. God's saying these are abominations of the devil, so that's worse, right? And you are seeing, reading about Satan saying that he will encourage people to mutilate other people. Since when is mutilating, telling you to not mutilate other people against their will is creating a law?
Yeah, mashallah. In the same way, we don't have every single drug listed out in the Quran that's prohibited. I mean, in the same way, we don't have to have it spelled out for us that dropping a bowling ball on somebody's head from a 20-story building is prohibited. These are obvious acts of aggression. And previously mentioned, these are obvious intoxicants. You don't have to have it. It's honestly, it's common sense, and it's for what's sticking, for what's right. It's the same, sir, to the heifer when the people demanded such. I mean, we're given the example of the story, about the heifer, and the messenger goes into detail about it. But the people that basically wanted to have it spelled out for them, and they wouldn't believe. It's the same, instead of just saying we hear and we obey. It should be very easy for people eventually to come to the conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I don't want to make this like graphic, right? But I think it is important for us to discuss, like, if you have even slightest doubts about this, like, you shouldn't, like, is it prohibited? Is it prohibited to cut off, let's say, female mutilation? Right? Let's talk about that. So, can I say that it's righteous for all these people in Africa and Egypt, like rest of Africa, like Egypt and other parts of Africa, and not just Africa, anywhere in the world for that matter, so-called Muslims also, cutting the clitoris from the women, right? Is this like, if you say that you can't do that, is that creating a law, or is that creating a law only if I say that you can't do it for the males? Right? Because everybody agrees that you can't do it for the women. I mean, that's Quran prohibited verbatim, and Quran doesn't have to say you can't cut off a person's leg, you can't cut off a person's arm, you can't cut. I mean, God is not going to name every single body part and say this is prohibited, this is prohibited, right? God says any kind of aggression, any kind of a sin where someone's a victim, is wrong. And you cutting off someone's ear even against their will. I mean, this is their property, that's their god-given property. Like, you can't do that, right? And you can't say, well, I don't see anywhere in the Quran that God says verbatim I can't do that. Like, if I want to go and chop off someone's nose, God doesn't prohibit me from doing that, so I can go and do it whatever I want. It's different if me as an adult decides to do something, right? That's not mutilation to another person, human being. You can say for medical reasons, if but the doctor told me that, let's say, you have to do this or you'll die, I can go do that, right? That's not prohibit. You can do that for any part of your body. You can cut off your arm, your leg, your breast if you're a female. Let's say you got cancer, God forbid. So you can do that. There's no prohibition in that. But outside of that, you can't go do these things. You can't do that to the innocent babies because the doctor tells you it's better for them. Like, come on.
Oh no, that's totally wrong, brother. Like, it's like if a doctor comes and tells you, listen, your kid has some kind of a disease, and circumcision is the only way out, and it's like, because then it's really needed, right? If there's no other option, like it's the same with, like, God prohibits pig meat, right? But then he says if you're really forced to do it, then you can have some, right? In the worst. But doing circumcision because some people think it's because of hygienic things or preventing disease, that's totally wrong. There is
Mhm.
no what kind of evidence, nowhere
Yeah,
actually.
there's no
And I
credible research.
specifically asked, I went to the doctor, to a surgeon even. I asked him specifically, is there just only one benefit of doing it, preventing any diseases or making life even easier? And like most of them, they agree it doesn't have to do anything with cleaning or with medical conditions at all.
Yeah, there's a lot of medical malpractice, and if you look into the origins, who's promoting it, what groups of people, the multi-million, I don't want to say billion, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was a $1 billion industry, but definitely a multi-million-dollar industry, what they do with the foreskin. If you look at the, the disgusting practices, which are still practiced by some, Jewish. There's a video about this. It was a Harvard, either student or professor, uh, basically exposed this. And but yeah, I mean, they'll write statistical studies that say, oh, this, and this. I mean, you can manipulate these things and have them pushed for your agenda. And there's a lot of money in this, but that's just one aspect. Not to mention the aspect that God created these things perfectly. And if you aggress, upon the innocent, especially these little babies that don't have any free will. I mean, how satanic can I get? It's another verse that they inflict great pain upon their children because of their idols. The verse
Yeah,
talks
and I
about
want to
that.
add, may I add one other thing, brother? So, you have these groups, right? So when you discuss the reason why it's not allowed, it's not in the Quran, like those type of things, the discussion goes very quickly to a place where they say, yeah, but it's for hygienic reasons. So then the question is, did Abraham, they so claim, the Abraham did circumcision because of the covenant that he with God, right? But the covenant they didn't have to do anything with circumcision at all. But so did he do it for cleaning
Yeah,
purposes, right? Like in the
if I pull
beginning.
out teeth, I won't need to brush my teeth and look. I have more hygienic in a sense. I mean, what are the
Yeah, you
you
can
know?
get rid of your teeth so you don't have to brush them.
Right. Technically, yeah, it would be more
So
hygienic
that
than
answers sister's question as well. It is not from Abraham. They claim it is from him, and they claim this is because this is a part of the covenant that Abraham made with God. But the covenant is not about circumcision; it's about
Yeah.
following the commandments of God. Being righteous, all those things. So it
Yeah.
doesn't have to do with that at all.
Exactly. So 99.99% of the people who are saying circumcision is okay, they're either doing it because they think it's a mandatory practice for all submitters because it was given to Abraham, or they believe that you can't prohibit it, quote unquote, because Abraham did it and it was some weird like tradition that gift was given to Abraham, like, which doesn't even make any sense. So none of them actually are advocating it or allowing it for any medical purposes. They're saying as just as an argument sometimes, but they're only doing it because they don't uphold the Quran alone when God says that you shall not follow additional sources besides Quran as a source of law, right? When you're saying something is prohibited or not prohibited, and you're using other sources besides the Quran to come to that conclusion, you're not upholding the Quran alone, right? So that in itself is wrong. And secondly, as far as like the medical thing go, like as Brother John said, there's a plenty of literature and scientific evidence out there that proves that a lot of this stuff that's out there is all nonsense. Like anybody can create these fake research studies, and we should be being educated people, like God willing, like we should know that people cannot come up to you and say the study suggests that circumcision prevents AIDS, and you're like, yeah, okay, well, they said it, so it prevents AIDS, and that's right. Even the researches that are done in the scientific communities, like they are peer reviewed, and validated, and you can see as time goes on, this is one of the biggest problems in today's science and research is that the research studies that they do and the conclusions that they draw from those research studies, like a good at least 50% of those studies, like I mean, at least it's true for the computer science world. You know, a lot of these researchers that they do, like they can't reproduce those results when they repeat those studies. You know, which means that those studies are flawed. So even though these studies were accepted at some point for whatever reason, they were not conducted properly or ethically, and you know they're found to be false. You know, and there was only like one or two studies, one study I think that was done for circumcision that was promoted all over the U.S. and around the world to you know tell people that it was good for them, to that it prevents AIDS and prevents UTIs like urinary tract infection and stuff. And those were all flawed studies, and it's only acceptable. I mean, scientifically acceptable in the U.S. If you go to other countries in Europe, for example, like their medical associations, they will tell you that they have come to the conclusion that it doesn't have any benefits. And when you talk about like medical necessities, you know, a lot of times, like for example, if your child has some issues with cleaning or you know with the skin, sorry to make it graphic again, with the skin being too tight, the doctors agree that you know recommending circumcision is a very extreme measure, you know, again because there can be other ways that you can keep your body without going through surgery. If you can prevent, like for example, if you can take antibiotics, you know, if you have any problem, let's say, and you have two solutions, either you can take antibiotics or you can do some physical exercise versus doing surgery. The doctors will always recommend you to, you know, take antibiotics or do some exercise like stretching or whatever, you know, to prevent the surgery, right? Surgery should be the last resort, right? But in this industry, because it's profitable too, you know, and because people are ignorant, they immediately go through this process and just do surgery, because it's very normal for children, like when they're young, to have the issues with tightness and stuff, usually because of which people will prescribe it. But further research shows that this they don't have to do it. Like once the child grows to a certain age, like this might just be a temporary phase when they may have this issue, and it goes away, you know. And if you see countries like India, China, all these other countries in the world where they don't have these corrupt, you know, religious practices about
Most of the people are
circumcision,
not circumcised in
they
the
have,
world.
they're not. Yeah, most of the people are not, you know. So exactly, and they don't have any problems. You know, they're not dying of cancer and AIDS and you know all this stuff. You know, and I mean, especially for AIDS, like there have been so much uh, education, you know, and awareness on how AIDS spreads. Like, why on earth would you even believe that something like this could prevent AIDS? You know, like that's beyond me. Like, I'm not even a medical student or anything. You know, but this, you know, it stands out right away. Like, you know, this is not correct. You know, if anything, it makes you more prone to AIDS or other diseases. You know, because you don't have an extra protective layer to prevent these diseases from, you know, affecting you. So yeah, but that's just one issue we're talking about, right? But there's other issues I think you mentioned about insurance and what else was there? We talked about, of course, I mean, insurance is gambling. The messenger talks about it. You know, gambling is prohibited, right? And so there's no compromise if someone says, yeah, you can have insurance, you know, or you say you can't. You know, if it's gambling is prohibited, you can't practice it. You can normalize it.
Yeah, and then
And it
poker.
also shows lack of trust in God, lack of
Yeah,
knowing God.
poker, Texas Hold'em is prohibited. Because you know, there's some people that say, oh, because there's a degree of skill involved. You know, it's not. It's a game. It becomes a game. That's not the case because a lot of it's all randomized gambling. How the cards fall and there's money. People being victimized. Yeah. I heard this argument from a relative, but not to go off topic though.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, so I mean, these communities, like I don't, I thank God personally. Like I'm not part of these communities because, brother David, like I've lived through my time with all of these groups, and I know a lot of those people personally, you know, and I see the problems with them. Like I'm, I prefer to be on my own rather than being with all these people. You know, God says that the good and bad are not the same, even though the abundance of bad may impress you, right? And so you can see these people in groups and taking pictures and stuff, and you may be impressed, like, wow, like that's awesome, like you should join them. You know? But I mean, how is that going to help us on the day of judgment? It's not going to help anybody. You know, it's on the day of judgment, you have to answer for yourself. You have to stand with God in this world, and you have to worship God alone and keep your practices intact. You know, God has given us a purified religion. Like after all this time, for hundreds of years, you know, of people being stuck in darkness, you finally have the truth. You know, and we can't just give it so easily and allow Satan to start penetrating and promoting all these falsehoods in our groups, you know, infiltrating and promoting all these false ideologies and making them part of submission. And by us compromising with these types of people, we're only festering more of that, you know, to come into the religion, right? It's not, and we don't have to worry about so much about the division itself as much as we have to worry about people creating innovations and falsehood and false prohibitions and attribute lies to God, right? I mean, and affecting other people by it, right? When you allow these people to come in, you allow these ideas to be promoted and festered. Like, I mean, I would say, like, in the past, like, this has been the exact same approach by Masjid Tucson for many years, and they encouraged these types of division, you know, by by promoting all these things together. Like, oh, how we have unity, all come together, and yeah, you believe in this, that's okay. You believe in that, that's okay. And then they come and they spread it further to other people, you know.
As long as
Eventually,
the numbers grow, they
yeah,
don't care.
yeah, as
Right.
long as numbers go, yeah.
That's
It's
yeah,
all about
They're
numbers.
getting,
that's the
yeah.
intention. You know, that's what they that's what's driving. You know, we can see that
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
on
feeding
the
their egos, brother. That's what I saw. Like feeding their egos, like as if it's their talent or it's because of them more numbers, like
Mhm.
because of their work, because of their
Mhm.
smartness or their,
yeah,
thinking
Mhm.
it's,
it
yeah,
should
instead of
it's
knowing that it's God doing everything.
right. It doesn't guarantee their salvation. You know, and for them to put so
Mhm.
much effort towards talking about it and framing it that way should be alarming. But yeah, I had just my David said, here's a fun one. Do you think it's halal or haram to pray naked? I mean, if you think of it this way, David,
Fun one.
your
How is it
concept,
fun?
huh?
How is it a fun one?
Yeah, exactly. You know, you're meeting, like the messenger said, you have a meeting with the the Lord of the
Mhm.
universe, King of Kings, having respect
Mhm.
for this contact would naturally you're gonna just in the same
Mhm.
way the Friday
Yeah,
prayer
I
dress
would
nice.
say.
I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, but that's
Yeah.
just go ahead.
Sorry. No, I'm just gonna say, just use your common sense, you know.
Right. I've never heard that one before.
Yeah, no, I've heard it. I've heard it, but I mean,
Oh,
imagine
I've
like,
never.
imagine like, you got into a situation where you don't have any clothes. You know,
Yeah,
let's say you're gonna miss a prayer if you went and got clothes. I mean, you have no other option.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there is this funny thing. It's in I don't know if you guys are familiar with Nasreddin Hoja, like this funny guy who sits on the donkey instead of
Hmm.
on the front side, he turns his back on it,
Oh
right?
yeah,
And then
that
he
makes
has
me
these
look
tails.
happy.
Yeah, yeah. So and then people come to him and they were asking him, yeah. He says, is it prohibited to chew a gum while you're, in the toilet and doing your thing? Then he says, it's
Uh-huh.
all okay, but if someone sees you, he's going to think you're eating it.
right.
It's kind of loud. I think they had to.
I
Yeah,
have
so
one.
both
I have
groups,
one more. I don't know if I
so
can.
we,
Is it too
yes,
much?
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a sin. Like if you like, I mean, there could be situations where you can't find clothes. I think most people choose not to pray without clothes, anyways, right? But like, if there was ever a situation where it happened, like, I mean, it's fine. It's not.
If
I
you're
mean, we
alone.
don't. Yeah, yeah. If you, I mean, even if you're not alone, but I mean, it's not appropriate, right? But I wouldn't say it's prohibited. Like, I feel it's not appropriate. So, if you're trying to show respect to God, it's not. But I wouldn't say like, yeah, you can pray naked if you want. Like, no, doesn't feel right.
Yeah, mashallah.
Yeah, the thing is, we cannot say it's a sin to pray when you're naked. We cannot say that. I think that's the main
Oh,
question, right? If it's a sin or not.
yeah, I can't say if it's a sin.
I'll say this one instead of typing it out. But there's an argument that some submitters like to say, taking it from Rashad. Rashad makes the explanation that whenever we pray, we are forming our congregation, we are forming a masjid, whether it's in the park, whether it's in the airport, wherever you are forming a masjid, a temporary metaphysical masjid. And then from there, I make the deduction if some people say, well, that means that every single time that you pray, whether you're in a group or whether you're by yourself, you're making a temporary masjid for yourself. If that's the case, then every time we go to a masjid, we're supposed to be dressing up modestly. So for this alone, I take it as we should never be naked, unless of course there's something happening, you're in a situation or something like that. But it's almost like, why would you wake up at 6 in the morning, deliberately to take off your clothes to then do a prayer? That's like almost disrespecting the religion.
Yeah, but then
Well,
the house
some
is
people may
also the
sleep
masjid
without
all the
clothes.
time.
Yeah. That's
What's
assuming
that?
that you go to. I said that's assuming that you go to sleep with your clothes on. Like a lot of people will not go to sleep with their clothes on. I mean, that's you have to look at all circumstances, right?
Yeah,
But
I pray
Yeah,
also in
the
my
thing is,
bedroom, in my other
yeah.
room, in my office. I pray everywhere.
Mm.
So that, like, I cannot assume that because it's a masjid, I need to pray in a certain. I need
Yeah.
to put clothes on in a certain way.
Yeah, and I think first of all, like we have to. I mean, I like I just the more I listen to these arguments from these people, like thank God I'm not with these people. Honestly, praise be to God. But the more I listen to these idiotic arguments from these people, like the more I thank God for that. But the thing is, like, uh, I kind of almost lost my trail of thought. It's so stupid. But the thing is, like, people should not try to connect dots. Like this type of reasoning and deductions that people do, like this is how they invented the
Yeah,
Trinity.
they start
Like,
dissecting so
yeah,
deeply. These,
yeah,
the point they're just. I think they just call they. It's
yeah,
causing trouble for themselves, and they just want to like
mm,
confuse it for themselves, or just.
yeah,
I mean, like I can come up with things like can I wear a fedora when doing X Y Z during a Friday. What's the point? As what you said earlier, common sense as a situation. It's that the best garment is the righteous. So,
yeah, yeah.
uh,
I
I
mean,
mean, to kind of talk about these things, I feel like they're. I mean, I don't want to say they're a waste of time, but like I was kind of wanting to. I was looking at some of the verses and was
yeah,
wanting to make.
sure,
You
yeah,
know,
you please do.
well, we can finish this first though.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. That's a good point. Yeah, yeah, and I want to say like we shouldn't like draw conclusions like drastic conclusions. For example, like if I pray somewhere now it becomes a masjid. Like no, a masjid is a place where you will congregate with other people. Now let's say you did that, and then I say you make a temporary mosque. I mean, there's no such thing like a temporary farm or temporary mosque. Like, I mean, like there's like they're like it's like building a science behind it. Like, it's not what's happening. I mean, in reality, you're just praying by yourself in your house. There's no masjid being formed. Like, where do you come up with this kind of uh, reasoning? Like this shows people just promoting their personal opinions.
Right. I mean,
Almost conjecture.
another thing we can do, it's like saying, can you do wudu naked? Of course you can. The messenger, like the person Ray, who was, I think, ended up being an objector, he was in an interview, and then he was posing questions. He's kind of theoretical, whatever nonsense questions. The messenger answered swiftly, and the one of them was, "What if you're in the shower or something?" He said, "You just do it in the shower," you know. That was in one of the audios. I mean, like people are. So I don't know anybody who showers with clothes on, but that's just an example. But um, but that's
Yeah, no, you can't pray more than 5 times. There's only 5 prayers. No, you can't. It's sunnah. Why would you do
yeah.
sunnah?
There's only 5 contact prayers. This is mathematical code. I mean, unless you're saying like zikr. Uh, I mean, yeah, imploring God, and yeah. I mean,
If I'm
hopefully
feeling sad,
you shouldn't be feeling sad.
no, I mean you can remember God in so many different. No, you can't. It's an innovation.
Yeah, it's an innovation.
Clearly, clearly.
Okay.
Yeah, the messenger specifically talked
Yeah.
about that too. Actually,
Yeah, it's an innovation. Yeah, I mean, the
so
verse
why can't I
you
say? Okay, so yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying, like, really, uh, it's God's mercy. We can see how merciful He is. Even with these people, and it's not like these people were like they were actually like forgiven, and just like when the lightning struck them and they were revived. Like they were given chances. Chance after chance. It's not like that they committed a sin and then they weren't forgiven or weren't allowed to continue to go on and repent and reform and redeem themselves. We see this. But we also know that it's not. I think for we don't abuse God's mercy. We don't, because we don't turn unappreciative for these things. No, zakah doesn't. There's general zakah. There's
Yeah,
general
okay, so
check.
I think it's
No,
like we are at
zakat.
off-topic things, right? But maybe we can talk about it instead of writing.
No, she can't talk about it. She's
No, that's not what I meant. Like we are writing too. Yeah, you're writing, I am writing, and it's a little bit
oh
off
yeah, we
topic, I
can talk
think. So I
about it.
was waiting actually. Are we gonna go off topic and then, you know?
I guess we might as well go off topic because
No, I mean if somebody has comments about the verses, then we can talk about that first. We should have just followed the format. I guess we kind
Yeah, so I had
of.
actually one question. Yeah, brother. I had a question about so the verses we have read about Moses and the children of Israel. So when they were with in Egypt, right? Where their religion, it wasn't what type of religion had they? Was it the same as the Egyptians, or did they had a different religion at the time?
So these people had, moved there, right? So they weren't inherently from Egypt.
Yes, so these are the children of Israel, children of
Israel.
Jacob, and then
Yeah, yeah. So
Joseph,
they were
and like
yeah. So
yes,
they were supposedly following that religion, and when Moses went also, when he left, he was following the same religion. Like I think that it was Median, right?
yes,
So
Median,
so he
yes,
was yeah. So he was following the same religion when he came back, and then he came back. Right. So yeah, they were following the
yeah.
same religion that they were practicing for
Hmm.
submission.
But probably it was corrupted.
Yeah, it was corrupted. Yeah,
Hmm.
probably.
Because these people who supposedly are following the religion of their grandfather Abraham, or Israel, worshiping a calf, like they should have known that it's a sin, right? But they didn't. So that means it's yeah.
Mm.
Their whole religion was corrupted
Mm-hmm.
drastically, probably.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, so good points. So I like how Brother Jaffer, you look at all the different angles, and ask these questions about the verses. Mashallah.
Yeah, mashallah, brother.
That's why we're supposed to have Quran studies, so we can exchange perspectives about things we read in the scripture. Like there's so much to learn from, um, uh, and I don't mean to criticize other groups, but this is the flaw that you see in the Quranic studies. Just people are more into like just going too much off topic, that they don't pay as much attention discussing what they read in the Quran about the verses. I mean, there's so many lessons and stories that God wants us to carefully reflect on and learn from it. And these people, they just go nuts in these groups, or other online groups.
Yeah, brother.
And these are the ideas that they come up with. All this nonsense we're listening to about the ideas they have formed outside.
Yeah, mashallah, you're right, brother Jaffer asked some really good questions. And his
Yeah,
name changed.
mashallah, brother. I have always good questions, brother. Like other
Mashallah.
strange ones. Yeah, brother David, mashallah, he has also asked good questions, mashallah, and sisters, other sisters too, mashallah.
So,
Mashallah.
yeah.
Yeah, I like what you said,
So,
brother Suleiman, about the how kind God is. Because that's exactly like the same thing I had always thought too. When he manifested himself to the mountain, to Moses, like he didn't have to do that, and then Moses became the most convinced believer after he fainted. He said what he said. It's very merciful.
Yeah, we see also the same thing with Abram, actually, right? So he's asking God how he creates something which is dead, right, and new, and then God tells him like, you don't believe in it, and then he says, no, of course, like I want to make what is it exactly, to make his
Birds, the
to,
four
yeah,
birds.
like it makes it stronger, let's say, his belief stronger or fixed. I don't remember
Right.
exactly what he said here.
My Lord, show me resurrected dead.
Yeah, like that happened exactly with Moses, right? Like he insisted on seeing God, and while God said, well, you can't bear it, right? So, and then he saw it, and then he said, I am the most convinced believer.
That's so, yeah, that's so funny.
Where does the rumor come from? Like, I know where it
yeah.
comes from.
Yeah, mashallah. I think the fact that we have two new submitters in our study, it's again itself is a proof that we're pretty open to
Much-
submitters. Of course,
Yeah,
we're talking about proven hypocrites that we personally know. The hypocrites we don't let them, you know. So maybe that's why they're upset and spreading these lies about us. But we're pretty open. Like we have our Quran studies broadcasting. We're very open and transparent. And anybody who wants to learn about God and the truth, as long as they decide to be submitters, they're welcome. We let them come and we talk to them. They're open-minded. You know, so yeah. I mean, because our focus here is to not to convert people, but to have our Quranic studies as submitters, like the way we see the Messenger of the Covenant. Having Quranic studies. Because God tells us we want to have Quranic studies. We don't want to convert people, like the Crusaders. We want to have our Quranic studies.
yeah, we're
So
not
there's a
hermit. Our hermetism is hermetism was what the
yeah
priests and what the priests and
monks.
nuns have done, and invented, prohibited themselves from interacting and marrying people. But yeah, that's
Yeah, and it's also not a place for, like, this is not a debate area. Like, the whole point is doing the Quran studies and try to understand it, see it in different perspectives, of course. So the
Mhm.
main goal is not to invite people and then discuss with them and then try to win the debate and then to destroy it, and
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
that's
Or to
totally not the
invite
point.
false messengers and rabbis and use them as props to get more people and make it sound interesting. Anyways, so other questions about the verses that we read, Brother Jaffer? You have any more interesting questions?
Maybe in the future, brother. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Please. We read a lot of verses, and really, these are insightful things. These are people that were believers. I mean, supposedly were believing. You know, seeing the miracles, just like us. Had the messenger, purified religion, and they didn't behave so well. God is teaching us this is how the humans are. This was not a distinguished group, but this is an example for us to learn from. That
Who you think
it's
you
a
are?
blessing from
Who you
Allah that
think
He
you
exists.
are? Who you think you are?
Who is that?
what happened.
That's Brother David.
What happened?
Okay.
Probably talking
Okay.
to his dog. I hope not
No, it
us.
wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, and we also know the children of Israel and what it means that they were chosen. All that doesn't mean that they were. All that means is that they were chosen, God's chosen people, and He chose to rescue them from Egypt and the persecution of the Pharaoh. Uh, that's what that means. It
Yeah,
doesn't,
also,
doesn't mean
please
that
correct
they're
me if I'm
chosen
wrong.
and paradise is guaranteed for them, just like they think, or the Christians say. We have
Mhm.
these. That's all that. It was nothing special in that context.
Was it also, does it also has to do with like them being a people which are devoted to God and example for humanity on learning the teachings of God? If I'm not mistaken, it was from or the Bible. That was the whole point of it, like God choosing a people to give them the opportunity to be examples to the humans on how to,
Yeah,
follow God's commandments.
yeah, they had a lot of prophets stuff that came, but it also shows us too that uh, just with where you come from, lineage. We have. I think it's hard to hear. I can't really hear. I think brother. Okay, I can hear better. Yeah, like there's no intercession. So despite where we see this, I mean, probably throughout history, but a lot so today. Just because you think you come from, you're related to this person, there's no nepotism. there's you could be the like the relatives of Muhammad, his uncle couldn't save him. Noah's family, Abraham's father. So I mean, in the same context, just because these people were descendants from Abraham, these a lot of them turned out to be the most wicked of them, and they killed their prophets. They tried to persecute and kill Jesus, as we know. So this is like those good lessons. Is that kind of what you were wondering, Brother Jaffer? Or does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I'll check that again. There was this thing. I'll check and then I'll write it down in WhatsApp, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there were supposed to be good examples, for us, and there were. I mean, they had prophets, Isaiah, Ezekiel, Solomon, David, a lot of them that set the best examples and came with proofs and scriptures.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't hear any swearing. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I didn't
You guys
hear
I
any.
just heard him talking about his dog. He said, or I assume it was a dog or a cat.
Yeah. No, I
He
didn't hear
said,
any.
"Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, so what did you, Brother Joffrey? I missed what you said. You said something about the chicken. I heard chicken. Maybe I'm hungry.
Oh, a chicken?
I
Didn't
heard
you
chicken.
just...
No, you said. I think you said something about checking something.
Oh, he was checking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said. So you said I'm chicken. Mashallah. Thank God. Yeah. So I guess if there are no other comments or questions from anyone, God willing, we can end the study. Thank you all for joining us. God willing, our next English Quran study would be on a Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. And God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum,
Oh,
brother.
and before, I guess, if anybody wants to stay after I stop the recording, you're more than welcome. I'm just going to end this stream also, but I have to do something. I have a deadline for 2 p.m.
Yeah, I had to leave also, brother. Yeah, so I have also a question anyway. I will discuss because I think the sister wrote something about the Millat Ibrahim. So some community they brought something that peculiar